what I did that made my spouse has been acting incredibly strange. I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here I am, shaking while typing because I honestly don't know what's happening in my marriage anymore. 2 nights ago, my spouse came home late, and instead of the usual, "Hey babe, sorry I'm late," he just stood at the doorway, staring at me with this blank face. He didn't blink much, didn't smile, didn't even move until I asked, "Are you okay?" And then without answering, he walked past me straight into the bedroom, locked the door, and didn't come out till morning. When I tried to ask him what was wrong, he only said, "You know what you did," in this low, cold voice. The problem is, I swear I don't know what he's talking about. That was the moment I realized something was very, very wrong. My husband isn't the type to act mysterious or play games. He's usually very open, sometimes even blunt. For him to act like this means either I did something so bad I can't even imagine it, or he's hiding something from me. The worst part is the way he's been looking at me ever since, as if I'm a stranger in my own house. Yesterday, I caught him standing in the hallway at 3 a.m. just watching me sleep. When I opened my eyes, he didn't flinch. He only whispered, "How could you?" and walked away. So yeah, I don't know what I did that made my spouse act this strange, and I'm terrified to find out. Now, let me back up a little so you understand how we got here. My husband and I have been married for 6 years. We met through mutual friends at a birthday party. I was 24 at the time, fresh out of grad school, and he was already building his career. He was charming, funny, and always made me feel safe. That was the thing I loved most about him, how safe I felt around him. We weren't perfect, but we were solid. The kind of couple people looked at and said, "Wow, they're really good together." The first few years were smooth. We traveled, we hosted dinners, we even survived some tough times, like when I lost my job and he carried us financially for a whole year without complaining once. We leaned on each other. That's why this sudden switch feels like a punch in the gut. About 3 months ago, I noticed little changes in him. Nothing dramatic at first. He started locking his phone more, spending longer hours at work, and he was quieter at there. I thought maybe it was stress. I asked him if everything was okay, and he'd say, "Yeah, just tired." I let it go, not wanting to nag. Then, about a month ago, he started forgetting small things about me. Like he'd call me by my full name instead of my nickname, or he'd ask me what my favorite tea was, even though I've been drinking the same chamomile tea every night since we got married. It was like he was relearning who I was, but not in a cute, romantic way, more like he didn't recognize me. The first real, extreme moment came 2 weeks ago. We were in the living room and I casually mentioned a memory from our honeymoon in Greece. He looked at me dead in the eyes and said, "We never went to Greece." At first I thought he was joking, but when I laughed, he stayed serious. He even got angry when I pulled out our photo album. He slammed it shut and said, "Stop making things up. Stop trying to trick me." I was frozen. I had no idea how to respond. After that night, I started keeping a closer eye on him. I noticed he would sometimes talk under his breath when he thought I wasn't listening. Phrases like, "She thinks I don't know," or "Not again." I tried confronting him, but he would shut down the conversation immediately, saying, "Just drop it." The less extreme moments were when he'd act completely normal again, almost like his old self. He'd make me breakfast, kiss me on the forehead, ask me about my day. Those moments gave me hope, made me think maybe I was imagining everything. But then the strangeness would come back, stronger than before. 2 nights ago was the breaking point. That cold stare, that locked bedroom door, and that chilling sentence, "You know what you did." Since then, I've been spiraling. I replay every conversation we've had, every choice I've made, every little mistake. Did I forget an important date? Did I say something that hurt him? Did I accidentally reveal something I shouldn't have? Or is he hiding something from me and projecting it onto me? Last night, it got worse. I woke up around 3 a.m. because I heard something in the kitchen. When I went down, I found him sitting in the dark with just a candle lit on the table. He was writing something in his notebook. When I asked him what he was doing, he slammed the notebook shut and glared at me. "Why are you pretending? Why are you still acting like you don't remember?" His voice was sharp, almost trembling. I froze. My heart was pounding. I didn't know what he meant. Before I could respond, he stood up, blew out the candle, and walked past me without another word. That was last night. And now I'm sitting here trying to piece it all together, but the truth is, I don't know what I did that made my spouse act this strange. And this morning, something even more chilling happened. This morning, I woke up to the sound of the shower running. At first, I thought it was just my husband getting ready for work. But when I checked the time, it was only 5:15 a.m., way too early for him. I dragged myself out of bed, yawning, and went to the bathroom to see if he was okay. The door wasn't locked. When I pushed it open, the scene inside froze me in place. He was standing under the running shower, fully dressed in his work clothes, tie and all, just letting the water soak him. His eyes were wide open, staring straight at the tiled wall. His lips were moving, but I couldn't hear what he was saying over the sound of the water. "Austin, what are you doing?" I shouted, my voice trembling. He turned his head slowly toward me, his hair plastered to his forehead, water dripping down his face like tears. And then, with this strange calmness, he said, "You did this to me. You know you did." I felt my knees weaken, my stomach twisted into knots. What did I do? I mammored. He didn't answer. He just reached up, loosened his tie, pulled it off, and dropped it to the floor with a wet slap. Then, without breaking eye contact, he turned off the shower, stepped out, soaking wet, and walked past me as if I wasn't even there. The carpet got soaked with every step he took, back into the bedroom. I wanted to follow him, to demand answers, but something about the look in his eyes scared me. It wasn't anger, it wasn't sadness, it was wallow. Like the man I married was gone, replaced by someone who only wore his face. That was the high point of my fear today. Now, let me back up a little to the less extreme thing that happened after that, because the morning didn't end there. He dried off, changed into new clothes, and by the time I made coffee in the kitchen, he came down acting completely normal, like nothing had happened. He even hummed one of his favorite songs while buttering his toast. My hand shook as I set his coffee down in front of him. "You okay?" he asked, glancing up at me like the husband I used to know. I almost laughed. How could he ask me that when he was the one standing under a freezing shower in a full suit? But I swallowed it. I forced a smile and nodded. "Yeah, I'm fine." The whole breakfast felt like a play we were acting in. He asked me about my plans for the day. I lied and said I had errands, but really I couldn't think straight enough to leave the house. He kissed my forehead before leaving for work, like always, and that kiss sent chills down my spine because it felt like two different men were living inside him. The man I married, and the stranger who whispered accusations in the middle of the night. I thought I was losing my mind. Maybe I was reading too much into things. So I decided to distract myself. I cleaned the house, folded laundry, even tried watching TV, but I couldn't shake the memory of him standing in that shower. Later in the afternoon, I tried to snoop. I know it's not right, but at this point I was desperate. I went into his study where he keeps his work files. I was looking for that notebook he had been writing in the night before. It wasn't on the desk, it wasn't in the drawers. I checked the shelves, nothing. Finally, I noticed a locked box under his desk. It looked like one of those fireproof document safes. I had never seen it before. That discovery set off alarm bells in my head. My husband has never hidden anything from me before. What could he possibly be keeping locked away? I didn't try to open it right then. I didn't have the key, and I was too scared he might walk in and catch me. So I pretended like I hadn't been in there. But now that locked box is burned into my brain. What's inside? What is he hiding from me? That was the low point of the day. The paranoia, the overthinking, the waiting. But then something extreme happened tonight. After dinner, he was washing the dishes while I sat at the table, pretending to scroll through my phone. Out of nowhere, he said, "I know you've been going through my things." My heart nearly stopped. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. He turned to look at me, his hands dripping with soap suds, and said, "Do you think I don't notice? Do you think I don't see everything?" I stammered, I wasn't doing anything, I swear." That's when he smiled, not the kind, warm smile I knew, but a slow, almost mocking one, and he said, "You're not gonna find it. Not this time." Then he turned back to the sink, humming again, like the conversation never happened. I ran to the bedroom, locked the door, and cried quietly into my pillow. Because now I know, he knows I've been snooping, and worse, he's hiding something that he doesn't want me to ever discover. The problem is, I'm not sure how much longer I can live like this. And tonight, something has happened that has pushed me past fear into pure terror. Tonight, I swear my heart almost stopped beating. I don't even know if I should be writing this because my hands are still shaking as I type. After locking myself in the bedroom and crying into my pillow, I must have dozed off. I woke up later to the sound of footsteps. Slow, heavy, coming up the stairs. At first, I thought it was just my husband heading to bed, but then the footsteps stopped, right outside our bedroom door. I held my breath, waiting for the handle to turn. But it didn't. Instead, I heard something faint. A scratching sound, like metal against wood. My whole body froze. I got out of bed and pressed my ear to the door. That's when I realized it. He was dragging something sharp along the wood of the doorframe. I whispered to myself, "Please stop. Please, just go to bed." Then, out of nowhere, he whispered on the other side of the door, "You think I don't know." I almost screamed. The voice was low, calm, but it sent a wave of ice through my veins. I didn't answer. I didn't move. I just backed away from the door, clutching my phone, wondering if I should call someone. Before I could decide, the scratching stopped. Silence filled the hallway. After a few moments, I heard the creak of the floorboards as he walked away. I thought it was over. I waited at least 10 minutes before daring to move again. But when I finally gathered the courage to peek out through the crack of the door, he wasn't there. Instead, something was waiting for me. Pinned to the outside of the door was a note. written in his handwriting, but messy, rushed, like he had scribbled it in the dark. It said, "Stop pretending. I remember what you did." I fell to the floor, my heart racing so hard I thought I'd faint. I sat there for a long time, clutching the note, trying to understand. What does he remember? What does he think I did? That was the highest peak of fear so far. Now, let me explain the quieter part that happened after the low. I stayed in the bedroom until morning, barely sleeping. When he finally came in, he acted like nothing had happened. He kissed my cheek, asked me if I wanted pancakes, and even joked about how tired I looked. I wanted to scream at him, show him the note, demand answers, but I couldn't. Something deep in my gut told me not to let him know how shaken I was. So I smiled. I played along. I said, "Yeah, pancakes sound great." We sat at the breakfast table like any other married couple. He made corny jokes, teased me about how much syrup I like, and even offered to take me out for dinner later this week. If someone had walked in and seen us, they would have thought we were a perfectly happy couple. But the note was still hidden in my pocket, burning against my leg. I thought maybe, just maybe, I could find out what he's hiding without confronting him directly. So, while he showered, I went back into his study to look for the notebook again. I checked every shelf, every drawer, even behind the books. Nothing. But then I noticed something I hadn't before. Under the rug, in the corner of the room, was a small, uneven bulge. My hands shook as I lifted the rug. There was a loose floorboard. I pried it up with my fingers, heart pounding in my chest. Beneath it was a small black notebook, worn and stained like it had been hidden for a long time. I didn't have time to read it all, but I opened to a random page. The handwriting was his, but the words made my stomach twist. It said, "She thinks I don't remember, but I do. Every night I see it. Every day she lies to my face. I'll make her confess." I slammed it shut and shoved it back under the floorboard just in time to hear the bathroom door open. He was coming back. That was the low. The creeping dread. But then came the next extreme. Tonight, when I tried to sleep, I felt the bed shift. He slid in beside me like always. For a while, he just lay there, silent. Then, slowly, he wrapped his arm around me. His lips touched my ear, and he whispered the words that nearly made me jump out of bed. "Tell me the truth before it's too late." And then he started laughing. Not loudly, just a quiet, broken chuckle that went on and on until I couldn't take it anymore. I'm writing this while he's still lying next to me, his back turned, his breathing steady like he's asleep. But I know he's not. I don't think I've ever been this scared in my life. Last night, after he whispered, "Tell me the truth before it's too late," and laughed like that, I couldn't close my eyes. I lay there stiff as a board, pretending to be asleep, while his breathing stayed steady beside me. Every creak of the house, every rustle of the sheets made me jump. I didn't move until the first rays of sunlight came through the blinds. When he finally got out of bed, he stretched, kissed my forehead, and said, "Sleep well?" as if nothing happened. I forced a smile and nodded, but inside my chest, my heart was pounding so hard I thought he'd hear it. That was the high point of fear from last night, but what came after was quieter, though not any less unsettling. He went about his morning routine like any normal husband. He even asked me if I wanted to go grocery shopping with him later. I said no, that I had things to do at home. The truth was, I wanted him out of the house so I could look at that notebook again. When he left for work, I bolted straight to the study. I yanked up the floorboard, grabbed the notebook, and sat down at his desk with shaking hands. The first few pages were ramblings, angry words, questions scribbled over and over. Why won't she admit it? She thinks I'm stupid. It's right in front of me. Then I reached a page that made me feel like the air had been punched out of my lungs. It said, "The night of December 14th. The fight. She thought I'd forget. She thought it would disappear, but I remember. I remember the blood. I remember everything." My vision blurred. My hands trembled so badly the notebook nearly slipped out of my hands. December 14th? What fight? What blood? I tried to think back. December 14th? Last year? The year before? I couldn't remember anything unusual. We've had arguments, sure, but nothing violent. Nothing with blood. Unless he's confusing me with someone else, or worse, unless something happened that I've somehow blocked out. The possibility that I could have done something without remembering made me sick to my stomach. But before I could read more, I heard the front door slam. He was back, way earlier than usual. My heart leapt into my throat. I shoved the notebook back under the floorboard, pressed the rug down flat, and sprinted to the kitchen, pretending to make tea. He walked in, smiling like everything was fine, holding a bag of groceries. "Thought I'd surprise you," he said cheerfully. I forced a laugh. "That's nice." The entire time we unpacked groceries together, I kept waiting for him to say something, to catch me in the act, but he didn't. He just hummed softly and asked if I wanted pasta for dinner later. That was the low. Me playing house, pretending things were normal while the truth sat hidden under the floorboard like a ticking bomb. But then tonight, it got worse. Much worse. After dinner, I was washing the dishes while he scrolled on his phone at the table. Out of nowhere, he said, "Do you ever think about that night?" The plate nearly slipped out of my hands. I said, "What night?" I asked, trying to sound casual. He looked up at me slowly, his eyes sharp, searching my face. Then, with a chilling calm, he whispered, "December 14th. I swear, my blood turned to ice. I stammered, I don't remember anything about December 14th. His lips curled into a smile, but his eyes didn't. Of course you don't. That's the problem. And then, before I could react, he pulled out the same black notebook and dropped it onto the table in front of us. The notebook I had just put back. I froze, staring at it. My mind raced. Had he known I was reading it all along? Was it some kind of trap? He tapped the cover with one finger and said, "I want you to tell me what you see when you read this, but be careful. Lies will make it worse." I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. That's where I am now, sitting in the kitchen, staring at that black notebook, while my husband watches me with eyes that don't look like his anymore. And I have no idea what's about to happen next. I sat frozen in that kitchen chair, staring at the black notebook he had placed in front of me. My throat felt like it was closing up. My palms were sweating so badly I could barely grip the edge of the table. He leaned back in his chair, arms folded, watching me like a predator watching its prey. "Go on," he said, voice low but steady. "Open it." I hesitated. Every instinct in my body screamed, "Don't touch it." But I also knew refusing would make things worse. My fingers trembled as I reached for the notebook, pulling it closer. The cover was damp, almost sticky, as if it had been soaked in something at some point. I opened to the first page. The same scrawled words I had seen before, stared back at me. "She thinks I don't remember. She lies to my face. December 14th. I flipped through, pretending like it was the first time I'd seen it. My hands shook so violently the pages rattled. "What do you see?" he asked. My voice cracked. I don't understand. Why are you writing these things?" He slammed his fist on the table so hard I jumped. "Don't play dumb with me. You know exactly why." My eyes filled with tears. "I swear to you, I don't. Please, just tell me what you think I did." He leaned forward then, his face inches from mine, his breath hot and uneven. December 14th. The fight. The blood. You don't remember because you don't want to. But I remember. Every detail. I shook my head violently. "No, we never had a fight like that. You're making this up." That's when he smiled, slowly, chillingly. "Then let me remind you." And he pulled out something from his pocket. It was a folded photograph, old, bent at the edges. He slid it across the table toward me. My stomach dropped as I reached for it with trembling fingers. When I unfolded it, I nearly screamed. The picture was of me, sitting on our living room floor, my clothes stained with something dark, my face twisted in what looked like anguish, my hands covered in red. Blood. The edges of the photo were smudged, like fingerprints had been pressed into it over and over again. I shoved it back across the table. "This isn't real. This is photoshopped or something." He laughed, that same broken laugh I'd heard in bed the other night. "Do you really think I'd go that far? You think I made this up in my head? No, sweetheart, this is proof." My chest tightened, tears blurring my vision. I racked my brain, trying to remember anything about December 14th. Nothing came, just a void. That was the high, the photo, the proof, the terror. But then something strange happened. Something less extreme, but just as unnerving. After showing me the photo, he suddenly softened. He reached out, gently touched my hand and said, "I don't want to hurt you. I just want you to be honest with me. That's all I've ever wanted." His voice cracked then, and for a split second, I saw the man I married. The one who used to protect me, love me, make me laugh. Tears streamed down my face. "I don't know what you want from me. I don't remember December 14th. Please, please believe me." He pulled his hand back, sighed deeply, and whispered, "Then I guess I'll have to make you remember." That was the low. his sudden calmness, the eerie sense that he had a plan I didn't understand. And then came the final extreme event. As I sat there, shaking, he stood up slowly, walked to the pantry, and pulled something out. At first, I couldn't see what it was. When he turned around, my blood ran cold. He was holding a knife. He didn't point it at me, didn't raise it. He just held it loosely at his side, staring at me with hollow eyes. We can't keep living like this. Tonight, you're going to remember, one way or another. And now I'm writing this in our bedroom, door locked, heart pounding out of my chest, knowing he's just on the other side of that wall. I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know if I'll make it out of this house, but I finally know one thing for sure. Whatever happened on December 14th, it's the key to everything. It turned out December 14th was real. We had a terrible fight that night. I threw a glass, and in the struggle he hit his head on the table. There was blood, so much that I thought he had died. I blocked it from my memory, but he never forgot. The notebook, the whispers, the stares, it was all him trying to make me remember what I'd buried. That night with the knife, he didn't hurt me. He dropped it and broke down crying. Now we're in therapy, but things will never be the same. What I did changed us forever.